Next up, global oil prices have surged sharply as the Middle East conflict continues to intensify, raising fears of a major energy supply shock. Brent crude and West Texas Intermediate both climbed above $110 per barrel, the first time prices have breached that level since 2022. The spike comes amid disruptions around the Strait of Hormuz, a critical global oil shipping route, as tensions in the region continue to escalate. Governments around the world are now considering emergency measures. South Korea is reviewing whether to introduce an oil price cap for the first time in 3 decades, amid concerns over domestic energy costs. Meanwhile, Australia is assessing requests from Gulf states for defensive support while also reviewing the impact of the crisis on energy security. U.S. President Donald Trump, however, has said the spike in oil prices was a small price to pay for global safety if Iran's nuclear threat is eliminated. And now joining us live to tell us more is Mitali Nikor, economist. She's joining us from New Delhi. Ma'am, to what extent do you believe that India essentially buying oil from Russia will last more than the 30 days? What does India do then after this 30 days? Where does India go, please?
So, firstly, thank you for having me on the show. I think it's quite presumptuous of the U.S. administration to say that they have allowed India to purchase Russian oil, and also quite presumptuous of them to think that India will not buy Russian oil after this 30-day period. India has been a purchaser of Russian oil. India has its own bilateral agreements with Russia on the purchase of energy supplies, oil, natural gas, and other energy products, and India will continue to purchase them. I mean, what was happening last year with tariffs and punitive measures that the U.S. administration was sort of putting on India was completely illegal in any case. The Supreme Court of the U.S. has declared presidential overreach very clearly. So, in any case, I believe at this point India is entitled to refunds, damages, as well as monetary refunds from the U.S. So, therefore, I think to distract from this ruling, we're seeing this kind of a war coming in. But post when the dust settles, India may even ask for refunds at that point.
As far as energy security is concerned, India does have a deal that is set to take place from 2027 to 2035 with regards to uranium from Saskatchewan, which is in Canada. Does India also have other deals in place to essentially secure energy? Do they have renewable energy sources that they're looking to invest in India and other parts of the world, please?
So I think there is a lot of work that has happened on energy security and energy diversification in India in the last 2 to 3 years. We've seen firstly that relations with Australia have actually improved immensely, and there have been several agreements under the Comprehensive Economic Partnership, because coal supplies to India are actually being sought from multiple sources, and Australia is an important supplier of coal, coking coal particularly, which is used in thermal power plants, and that is a very important source of supply for India. Secondly, when we're looking at all of these trade agreements that have happened in the last 4 to 5 months, each of them actually has a massive component of energy imports, and India has committed to energy imports from several EU countries, and under the EU India trade deal, which is being called as the mother of all trade deals, there's going to be import of energy supplies from various Nordic countries to India. So that is also an important source of energy supply for India. And then India has also secured a trade deal with the Gulf countries, and that, of course, includes imports of oil supplies as well. So at the end of the day, India has worked on diversifying its energy sources. However, in my view, India still needs to do a lot more when it comes to renewable energy, because a lot of the renewable energy production equipment comes from China, and India still has not made much headway on imports of those technologies, and nor has it made headway on domestic production of those technologies. So therefore, it is very critical now for India to invest more in solar energy, particularly because that is the cheapest source of energy for a country, which is, for the amount of sunlight that a country like India gets.
Do you foresee in any situation in the future where the American Congress, the government, essentially attack India for being self-sufficient in their own way, shape, or form? Is that possible in any way? Please.
I think, Roshan, we're getting ahead of ourselves with that question. I think we should not speculate for on these kind of circumstances and on these kind of scenarios. Of course, for defense analysts and for for the government of India, they have to be prepared for any scenario. But in this situation, my suggestion would be that we not speculate on these kind of scenarios, because at the end of the day, India has been a very pragmatic global actor. India has been balancing its economic commitments towards the U.S. India looks at the U.S. as an important economic ally, as well as Europe, the UK. And India has also been working on building an economic relationship with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and its members. So, at the end of the day, India is only focused on economic development and growth. And I think for most countries, that is a welcome trajectory. So at this point, to attack the country that is literally powering global growth would not be pragmatic.
I appreciate your time. It's been much appreciated. Thank you. We'll speak soon.